Hey Book Dragons, welcome back to my channel. Glad you could be here. Today I've got another book review blast. Thank you to my patrons. I really appreciate all you do to support the channel. So the last time I did a book review blast for you guys, it went over quite well. If you did not catch my last one, go ahead and check that out. I'll leave a link to it in the cards at the end of the video and in the description below. This is where I do quick reviews of some books that I recently read that maybe I don't want to do a full-length review on. They're part of a series, or it just wasn't worth taking the time to do a super long review for. So I'm going to talk about 4 books in this blast today, and I hope you enjoy it. Definitely let me know if you're enjoying this format. I got really good response on my last one, so we'll see how this one goes, okay? So the first book I want to talk about is Enemy of God by Bernard Cornwell. This is the second book in the Warlord Chronicles, which chronicles the story of King Arthur, the true story of King Arthur, told from the viewpoint of one of his warriors whose name is Derval. I read The Winter King back in December. That's the first book in the series. And it wasn't great for me. It wasn't horrible. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't nearly what I expected from it. And I kind of chalked it up at the time to not really being a fan of historical fiction. And that's still actually true. I've always had a special place in my heart for King Arthur. I've read a lot of good Arthurian stories. I've always been a fan of the Arthur legend. So The Winter King didn't quite do it for me. But Enemy of God did it for me. Everything that I wanted in The Winter King and didn't get, I found in Enemy of God. I was so pleased with this book. It was just super action-packed, lots of great battles, lots of great political intrigue. King Arthur pops up in the story a whole lot more. Even though it isn't Arthur's story, a lot of it feels like a story about Derval, because we see so much of his story, which is actually quite interesting. How he falls in love with a princess named Kynwyn, and just the development of their relationship, and how he embarks on the quest to find the cauldron of somebody I'm not going to even bother pronouncing the name of, but it's an unpronounceable person's name who had this cauldron, and it's considered a religious relic in the eyes of the Druids. And so they go on this quest to find the cauldron. And this is kind of their version of the Grail quest, the quest for the Holy Grail. So Merlin is in it. Merlin features heavily in it. It is just a fantastic tale. I couldn't be happier with how much this book exceeded my expectations. And that's saying a lot, because I had virtually lost all my expectations after I read The Winter King. But I had told people at the time, okay, I'll keep reading the series, and I'm so glad I did, because Enemy of God was fantastic. I highly recommend this series so far. I have not read Excalibur, which is the final book in the series, but Enemy of God is well worth your time. So if you can make it through The Winter King, and who knows, maybe you'll like The Winter King. If you can make it through that to Enemy of God, mwah, chef's kiss. It was fantastic. The next book I want to talk about is Into the Labyrinth by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. This is book 6 in the Deathgate cycle. And this has just been a wild ride. I've enjoyed it so immensely. The reason I kind of stopped doing book reviews for each of the books in this series is because it would inevitably give spoilers for the first 4 books in this series. So I'm just kind of taking care of it in the quick reviews. And the majority of this book takes place on the world of Prion, which was visited in a previous book. It's the world of fire. And Haplo is trying to deal with all of the things he thought he knew about his world and his culture, and trying to wrestle with angst over disobeying his master versus what he knows deep down in his heart he needs to do to bring the world back into balance. They're still dealing with an ancient enemy that has wormed its way into the good graces of Haplo's master, and they are seriously threatening the entirety of the races of this world. And so Haplo was accompanied by an assassin named Hugh the Hand, and he also ends up encountering someone close to him from his past that he didn't realize was still alive, and that just brings a whole lot of other emotions to the table. There's a lot of new revelations that happen in this book that really opened up the world even further than it already was, and I just had a blast reading it. This is the penultimate book in the series, so the next book is the final book, and I can't wait to see how it ends. Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman have just crafted a fantastic world in this series, and I couldn't be happier with it. The next book I'm going to talk about is Tao, The Watercourse Way by Alan Watts. I recently finished this one. Now, I've been reading it for several months, and the reason being is it's a very slow burn. The things that Alan Watts talks about in this book are very heady. They're easy to understand. It's easy to read, but the concepts tend to be very heady, and so you kind of have to slow down and chew on it a bit and kind of think through some of the things that he talks about. So that's why it took me so long. Even though you might think that's weird, it's only, it's 126, 130 pages, so it's a short book. This was the last book that Alan Watts wrote before his untimely death, and he chronicles his journey into the heart of Taoism and the teachings of the Tao that are extremely important for everyday life and are extremely valuable for living a more peaceful and free life. I'm a huge proponent of Taoism, of Taoist philosophy, and for most of his life, Alan was primarily focused on Zen Buddhist philosophies and views. He dealt with other things as well, like Hinduism and Taoism, but his primary focus was Zen Buddhism. And it seems like toward the end of his life, he realized that Taoist philosophy was really where he felt the most affinity. It's a fantastic read. I highly recommend anything by Alan Watts. I really do. Anything by Alan Watts. But I so enjoyed this book. It was fantastic. The last book we're going to talk about today is Book 6 in the Dresden Files, Blood Rights. I keep loving the Dresden Files. I do. These books just keep getting better and better for me. This book was especially fun because this was my first time doing an immersive read. And what I mean by that is I read along with the audiobook for this book. James Marsters does the voice for Harry Dresden, and the voices for other characters that pop up in the book as well, of course. But he is the voice of Harry Dresden. And I don't mean that just for this book. He is fantastic. I can't picture anyone being Harry Dresden other than James Marsters now that I've done this. In fact, I'm hoping to do an immersive read with the rest of the Dresden books just because James Marsters is so damn good. So yeah, Blood Rights was a really fun, fantastic ride, and it was quick too. I finished this book over the course of 3 days, I think, give or take. I took a couple of days off to read other things, but all in all, it took me really short to read Blood Rights. And this is another book that I'm doing on the Book Review Blast because it's part of a series and I don't want to go into too much depth with it because spoilers. But book 6 starts off with Harry in a high-speed chase, and with him in the car is Thomas, who is one of the White Court of vampires, and they're on the run from some people that are trying to kill Harry. And after everything is said and done, Thomas asks him a favor to go and meet with this film director who's having some troubles. Somebody has been targeted with the evil eye curse, and he wants Harry to help this guy out and see if he can get to the bottom of it. During the course of the book, there's a whole bunch of baddies that end up popping onto the scene. Some other members of the White Court who don't like Harry very much end up coming into the picture. Some of the Black Court of vampires pop up as well, and those are the real nasties. They just talk about bloodlust. They're just all out to kill whoever they can. Just a lot of fun. If you like vampires, this book is chock full of them. I just had a really, really fun ride. Karen Murphy is still there. That's Harry's friend from the Chicago PD. A few other characters that have popped up in the series before end up showing up as well. So it was just a lot of fun. I will say this. The film director is an adult film director. So there's nudity, sexual references. It's not over the top or anything like that. It plays a very minor role in the story. Just wanted to throw that out there, though. If that's not your thing, you may say, well, I don't know if this book's for me. But if you love Harry as much as I do, you'll probably pretty much stick with Harry through anything. So, highly recommend the Dresden Files to you, and this book was no exception. It was just fantastic, and I'm really excited to continue with the series from here. As much as I'm enjoying the series, I'll probably just keep reading one a month. We'll see how things go, but that's the plan for now. Let me know what you think in the comments of this video. Did you enjoy the video, for one? And also, have you read any of these books? And if not, do they spark your interest now? I'd love to talk with you in the comments. Until next time, make sure you are reading more books, guys. I'll talk to you soon.